So today I want to talk about falling gracefully and dissolution.
What?
Disillusion. This is very common on the path, and disillusionment is a funny word because in our society, when we say we're disillusioned, it's a negative thing. We're like, oh, so disillusioned with that. But on the spiritual path, if you really think about it, that's exactly what we're trying to do, is become disillusioned, because we're caught up in this grand illusion of me and the ego and life being all about my little tiny world.
False premises.
Yeah, the false view. But before we get there, let me tell you a little story. First time I ever went to my teacher's house, it was in January in New York, so there was lots of snow and ice, and he's like, oh, we should build a fire. So he had this nice big fireplace, and he's like, help me get some wood. So we go outside, and he's got the big wood pile, and so I'm standing there with my arms out, and he's stacking more and more logs on my arms. They're getting heavier and heavier and heavier. and he was this really big guy. He's like 6'4", very strong, very tall, and just like putting more and more logs on me, and then my feet like start to get a little slippery, and then all of a sudden I just knew I was going down, and then so I just let go and fell. And then of course he burst out laughing and said, wow, at least you fell gracefully. And afterwards, of course, I was embarrassed and mortified, but then I thought about it later. In that moment, my practice served me, because in that moment I had the realization that, oh, I'm going to fall. And rather than fight it, rather than try not to fall, I just accepted. So my spiritual practice of meditation, mindfulness, trained me to be just fully in the moment and accept this is the reality of what is happening, is I'm going down. And then on the muscular level, I have my very few classes of Aikido training had taught me how to fall and not hurt myself. So that was a double bonus. So this skill of falling gracefully is so important on the path, because we have these really big realizations. We have these wonderful epiphanies. And then we come back into our ordinary life and we fall on our face, because we have this, like I said, this big epiphany of like, we really see like, oh, this is how it is. This is how I react in the situation. And then we're put to the test in that situation, and we forget our big epiphany, and then we fall. And then we have the realization that, oh, I should have known better. And that attitude, I should have known better, is poison. It's a killer. The coulda, shoulda, woulda game. Who knows that one? I know that one. But it just takes us in this very tight circle, right? We just go around and around and around. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Oh, I should have known better. I could have done that. I would have done this. And it keeps us from actually acknowledging the epiphany that we had previously and our fall that we had, which was an opportunity to put that epiphany in practice. But the truth of the path is we often need to have that experience of going very high and going very low in order to actually embody what it is that we had the epiphany about. In other words, we have to see it from both sides. We see it from the very high view and we see it from the very low view. And as we go through this cycle of going very high and then falling very low, that's how we learn. That's when we start to actually catch ourselves in real time. We start to see where we're becoming mental about an experience instead of just having the experience. You know, if I had stood there with the wood piling up in my arms, and when I realized my feet were getting slippery, if I had started to think, oh, I'm going to fall. Oh, gee, I don't want to fall in front of my teacher. I don't, oh, it's cold on the ground. I don't want to hit the snow. All those thoughts would have interfered, and then I still would have fallen, but I would have fallen with all that extra weight. In other words, I would not have fallen with grace. I would have fallen with the weight of my ego. And then I probably would have tried to hold on to the wood and wound up hurting myself on top of it. So what I'm saying is, when you fall, which you will on the spiritual path over and over again in a variety of different ways, don't be so hard on yourself, number one, and allow yourself to fully experience the fall, because that will make it easier the next time that you fall. It'll allow you to be even more present with the sensation of things not going as expected, and becoming comfortable with that feeling of the unexpected is a tremendous asset on the path. Because, as I said at the beginning, this path is about dispelling your illusions. It's about confronting the things within your mind that are false. The way that you see the world, the way that you see yourself is very limited. And as we go deeper into meditation, as we go deeper into silence, and we start to touch upon our true nature, and then we open our eyes and we recognize that, oh, I thought I was this. I thought I was just this ordinary woman going to work every day, but oh wow, I'm actually the entire universe, all packaged into this little body. That disillusion can be mind-crushing, because all of a sudden, how do we interact with the world? Because the whole rest of the world just sees this ordinary woman walking around, this ordinary person. But inside my mind, there's eternity, infinity. So naturally, as we begin to embody that infinity, there'll be these experiences of falling down, of having an interaction that is abrasive, that sends us spiraling into the need to control, the need to define our being. You know, in other words, when somebody is able to find and push our buttons and irritate us, all that notion of infinity goes right out the window, doesn't it? And all of a sudden you're defending your view of who you are and how you think things should be. And when that happens, when you catch yourself doing that, which is part of our mindfulness practice, to pay attention, to notice when that happens, ask yourself, okay, this happened, am I falling gracefully? Or am I clinging? Am I holding on? Am I trying to defend my defense? Which naturally leads to that whole coulda, woulda, shoulda game where we spin around and around and around. So play with that. Explore the different aspects of your being that you hold in a certain way. Who do you think you are in any given moment? And this is a great question to continually ask yourself as you interact in different aspects of your life. Who do I think I am, and who am I really? And in doing so, we start to catch ourselves when we're putting up that illusion. Now, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's necessary to display an illusion when we walk into a job interview. We are playing a game. The game is, I'm the best person for this job, and you're going to pay me lots of money. And
salesmanship.
Exactly. Well, there's a certain, it's a game, right? You know, sales is another, salesmanship, that is another.
I took a class
big
in
game.
sales, and it was very enlightening.
Yeah, on human behavior, it's fascinating.
Human behavior, I know. It taught me I didn't want to become a salesman. Master of illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yet, in our own way, we're all salesmen.
Yep.
You know, we're all selling this idea of us. Like, this is who I am, and this is what I've accomplished, and this is how I am. And we sell it first to ourselves, our own mind, and then we walk out the door and we sell it to everybody that we meet, until we meet somebody who's willing, or maybe they're not willing, maybe it's just their role in the big play of existence to push that button that makes us crack. So these cracks are going to happen. I don't care how well you meditate or how perfectly you do your mindfulness. Eventually, if you're actually practicing, you can get really good at pretending that nothing bothers me. I'm above it all. I've transcended everything. And maybe that's true. Maybe some people have. I don't know. I haven't met anybody that actually has.
Super hard.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just another little story about my teacher when his dog pooped on the carpet. He got really mad. He was very upset. And to me, you know, I had no idea. I was just like, oh, yeah, dogs do that. Yeah, it happens. And he was like, that's a $5,000 silk carpet. And I'm like, so? I had no concept of money. You know, you're rich. What do you care? But he was like, definitely like
Losing it.
very annoyed that his dog pooped on the carpet. And it's like, yeah, it happens.
To him, huh?
But he didn't hold on to it either.
Yeah.
It was an honest expression of, this is annoying me.
Yeah.
It's there. And then he went and got the paper towels and got the stuff and cleaned it up. And then it was over and it was dropped.
Inwardly, probably embarrassed that he let himself slip too.
No, I didn't feel like he was embarrassed. It was a very genuine, you know, yes, this pissed me off, and there it is, and now it's over.
Yeah.
And then we move on.
I'm a real person. I can get upset.
Right. And for me, that was a wonderful lesson, because even somebody who I had on a pedestal as, you know, this
Above it all.
fully enlightened being that is like amazing cinemaster would get upset over his dog pooping on the carpet. Just blew my mind. I was like, whoa. And it taught me that this practice is all about being real. And so in that moment, he fell gracefully, right? It was like, okay, yes, it annoyed me. I fell into this human attachment to my very expensive carpet. And then, oh, wait, now it's over. So as we kind of progress on the path, it really is not about how high we can get. You know, sometimes I think we get, especially at the beginning, which I don't think any of you are at the beginning, but it's this alluring concept of, oh, I've just got to get to the top of the mountain. I've just got to get as high as I possibly can. I'm going to be, and then I'll be done. But really, the path is, what I've noticed, it's more about how fast can you turn it around when you do fall. And it's interesting because, you know, the higher that we go, the grander our perspective becomes, the more wide our view becomes. We do hit these plateaus, and then we stay there for a long time, and then we go higher. And I've had people get really upset over the plateaus. It's like, I've gotten to this point, and yes, I'm happy, but I can see like there's so much more awareness for me to have, but I'm stuck here. I can't go anymore. And those plateaus that we build, or that we get quote unquote stuck on, are actually quite useful, because when we start climbing again, when we start going up and we fall, we hit those plateaus, those points. So instead of tumbling all the way back to the very beginning where we started off from in our beginning of our quest for awakening and illumination and disillusionment, we don't have to fall all that way down, because if we spent time on these different plateaus, we can fall just to one of those plateaus.
I like safety nets.
Yeah, exactly, safety nets. I like that. And they catch us. And, you know, of course, our ego is like, I'm here again. I've already been here. I don't want to be back here again. But in that moment, if we can feel gratitude for that plateau and say, oh, yes, I know where I am. Yes, I'm so grateful. Here I am. Okay. As we were talking about earlier, you get the lay of the land, right?
Another phrase that I love is blessings in disguise.
Blessings in disguise. Yes, that's a good one.
Sometimes
good one
it
to
feels
remember.
like a hurt in the immediacy. In retrospect, you go, wow, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, it's funny. We have to always have a really good sense of humor on the path. It's vital to your survival on this particular path. Because we, you know, as far as Buddhist paths go, this is considered one of the fast paths. So we are kind of learning and growing and blowing up through these different illusions and expanding awareness over and over and over again. And then so naturally we're going to fall. And we'll find ourselves back in an old pattern, old habit. But because you spent time on that plateau, it's familiar. And you're like, hey, wait a minute. I know this place. I've been here before. And that's when that real sense of being disillusioned really kicks in. The tricky part is, as I said at the beginning, we have this negative connotation of being disillusioned. And that comes out of that sense of, oh, I should have known better. And no, you couldn't have known better.
Sometimes the ego wants to hold on to the illusion.
Right. I think that's exactly it. The ego still wants to hold on to that illusion. It wants to keep us in that pattern, keep us in that level of awareness as a safety net, because it's familiar. And that little part of our brain, the amygdala, says, if I've had this experience before and I've survived, it's safe. And therefore, I'm going to do everything I can to stay in this safe place. Even if it makes me completely miserable and is creating tremendous pain, I survived. So I'm going to stay. That's how twisted our little brains can be. But that's just a little tiny part of our brain. But we have to acknowledge that it's there. We have to acknowledge it. And once we do, that's when we can start to kick in the gratitude and just be like, oh, thank you, memory, for reminding me that I've been here before. And because I know I've been here before, I know I can transcend this place once again. I don't have to stay here. And we return to our pure practice of meditation, of mindfulness, of paying attention. If we're stuck, we can do some contemplation, set our timer and say, okay, for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to obsess about why I'm here. When it comes to that type of contemplation, I always recommend a timer. There's the other type of contemplation where we take a high spiritual concept and just kind of let ourselves chew on it. That I don't think you need a timer for. That's just a wonderful addition to our daily practice. And as we sit there and we remember that, oh, I've been here before, I've had this experience already, then we can start to apply our practice. And then we begin to really embody what it is that we learned through that fall. And then our awareness starts to expand and we go up again. And then we have a different view. And then we do it again. And again, and again. Until we've done it enough times where we become completely disillusioned, that we can see through the illusion and we're able to call ourselves on it. And you're like, okay, brain, yes, I know you really like indulging in this feeling, but I know this is exactly what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, once you call yourself on it, that clearly, with that level of presence, then the tendency or the draw, if you will, to keep indulging in that way just isn't there. You see through the illusion. And it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't provide that ego's sense of safety anymore. And you realize that, oh, this doesn't work anymore. I'm going to have to find a new game. And then your awareness expands. So enjoy the falls. Don't dread them. You know, just be present with them. Allow yourself to fall gracefully.
They're all learning experiences.
And learn. Yeah, exactly. They just embrace them as learning experiences. So with that, let's meditate some more. We'll do some chakra meditation. We'll start on the navel center, then move up to the heart, and then to the third eye.